Welcome back to my channel. If you don't know me, my name is Sammy and I am a dating coach for singles. What I do is I work with people to help them dismantle some of their toxic relationship dynamics of their past and start to build newer, healthier relationship dynamics for the future so that they can have long-lasting, healthy relationships. Yay! The purpose of this channel is very similar. I am taking a critical eye on the relationship dynamics between the characters of different rom-coms. Last week, I went over The Wedding Planner and we discovered a lot of healthy dynamics there, but also there was some toxic stuff going on. But yes, so if you haven't watched that, go ahead and there will be a link somewhere to click. Or, go into my channel and watch it. If you find today's video to be helpful, please share it with someone else who you want to see in healthy relationships moving forward. And if you could hit the little thumbs up button, that would be super helpful. And if at any point you don't agree with something that I said or I missed something, go ahead and leave me a comment. I would love to start a conversation and work through, maybe the points that we disagree on. My opinion is not law, and I recognize that. And I'd love to hear the feedback from you guys. And then if you could hit the subscribe button and the little bell, that will notify you every time that I post, which should hopefully be Wednesdays every week. I will see you there. Disclaimer, I don't own any of the material that I'm going to be covering today. I don't claim to own it. I'm just merely using it from an educational standpoint to hopefully help you take a critical eye to your own relationships and start to build healthier dynamics yourself. And so I'm purely coming at it from an educational standpoint. Despite the name of my channel, my purpose is not to ruin rom-coms for you. I would love you to keep enjoying rom-coms as I do, just coming from a more educated viewpoint and to know that they are just purely for entertainment purposes only and that they don't necessarily mirror what reality is. Awesome. Okay, so today's movie that I'm going to be reviewing is actually maybe a new holiday classic for me. This movie came out last year, 2019. And it stars Emilia, Clarke, and Henry Goulding. They're both babes. So bonus, eye candy, no matter which way you swing. And yeah, I love this movie. It's a tearjerker, it's emotional, but it has a lot of heart and it has like an upbeat. So please get over, the cheesy premise of it. But of course, this is a hint of what I'm going to be reviewing. Main character, her makeup looks similar, probably better than this. I don't know how to do smoky eyes. And then she's got her own leopard coat that she totes around all through the town. That is, of course, say it with me, Last Christmas! Yay! I mean, you also probably saw the thumbnail and also the title of the movie, but that's fine. Let's go ahead and get into it. But first, spoiler alert, if you have not watched Last Christmas yet and you don't want this ending to be spoiled, which I highly recommend pausing my channel, going and watching it, renting it, whatever you need to do, watch the movie first and then come back to my video. And then let's get into the relationship dynamics between the characters. But, if for whatever reason you don't really care, this movie just didn't have really much of an interest to you, but, you love my channel, right? You can continue on. Just know, yeah, it's gonna be spoiled. Yeah, and if you've already watched this movie, if you watched it recently, you can skip my synopsis, or you can continue ahead. I'm gonna give a little brief synopsis on the story and how kind of the characters come together. But yes, so be warned, there will be spoilers ahead. I will be spoiling the ending of this film, so watch with caution. But yeah, let's go ahead and get into it. Okay, so I want to get into a quick synopsis of the film and just how kind of these characters meet in this world. Just, you know, for anybody who has watched it, maybe you saw it when it came out last year, don't really remember some of these plot points. I'm hopefully going to get these right in the right order. And yeah, so anyways, yeah, feel free to skip ahead if you don't really need the synopsis, but if you do, enjoy. Again, spoilers are ahead. I will ruin the end of this movie, so watch accordingly. Anyways, okay, so this movie opens up with Emilia Clarke's character, who is named Katarina. We will call her Kate moving forward. She is a child. She is singing in a choir at a church. She's singing a George Michael song, of course, which, if you don't know the basis of this movie, it is based off of George Michael songs, being that Last Christmas was a major hit for Wham, which was George Michael's band. But anyway, so all of the music in this movie is George Michael. So she is in Yugoslavia, singing in a church as a child, and she's this beautiful voice of an angel. Her family's there. They're so proud. Her mother is crying. She has a sister named Marta, and her father is there. So she has a sister, and both of her parents are alive. We learned that they flee to England. So I believe they're living in London. There is, forgive me, I do not know what was happening in Yugoslavia during the time period. I think it's like through the 2000s. So they are Yugoslavian refugees in a sense. Her father was a lawyer and her mother was an opera singer. I think, I hope. I hope I got that right. Those are things that we will learn later on. But anyways, so the present day, it takes place in England moving forward. And Kate, we find her at a bar. This scene really sets the tone. She's getting drunk. She's kind of in her own world, listening to the same George Michael song that we saw in the intro. And a man approaches her, hits on her. He seems really charming, really cute. She doesn't have a place to stay. And he said, well, stay with me, whatever. They allude to them hooking up. And then in the morning, he again is so overly charming and really laying it on thick, where we're like, oh, yay, Kate. But yeah, so he's offering her a cappuccino. He's going to make her green juice. She's got an audition today in the West End that's really important. So it's like he's here to set her off on a good start until she hops in the shower and his girlfriend comes home. Oh my God, tries to get in the shower with her. It's a hilarious moment, so sad. Kicks her out with all of her stuff, and she's back on the street. And she's, on her way to work. We find out that she works at a Christmas shop. So for anybody who loves Christmas, this store would be like a dream for you, because it is Christmas 365 days out of the year. The shop owner goes by Santa. She's played by Michelle Yeoh. God, I hope I pronounced that right. Her character goes by Santa, and Emilia Clarke's character at work is dressed in this really kind of elaborate elf costume that I think is super cute. Anyway, so we see their relationship. They seem to have kind of a close personal relationship where they take digs at each other and it's not seen as unprofessional, which normally in a work environment you can't do that. But anyways, I digress. I will get into that later. But they seem close and they take little digs at each other, and the boss doesn't seem overly happy with Kate. But yes, so we see her working in the shop. She's desperately trying to go through her phone book to find if any of her friends can take her in for the evening, because again, she has nowhere to go. And that's when Henry Goulding's character comes in. His name is Tom. He comes off as just a really kind of whimsical, happy-go-lucky kind of a dude. He just kind of dances around. He shows up at the shop and he's just being very curious. He's looking up, checking out a bird, and Emilia Clarke's character comes to check out the same bird, and the bird poops in her eye. So their relationship doesn't really start off on the best of terms. She's really annoyed with him. He's very much the opposite to her. He comes off very happy-go-lucky, very optimistic, very sweet, very almost naive in a sense, where it's like the worries of the world haven't hit him. And her character seems very jaded. She sleeps around, which, you know, is not a bad thing. She doesn't have a place to stay. She's not really engaged in her job, nor does there seem like there's really any kind of upward trajectory for her there. It's just, you know, a retail job. So it's very non-committal, which seems to be how she approaches a lot of things from a non-committal standpoint. Anyway, so that's where they introduce his character. She's very annoyed with him, just wants him to go away. Then we see this mysterious stranger walk into the Christmas shop right before they close, and Santa, the boss, goes into a trance with this man. I mean, he's just a very strange stranger. They have just a really interesting kind of one-on-one together that Kate is just checking out, like, what is going on here? I mean, it's just very intense, like they're in their own world. And then he just leaves like nothing happened, and Santa snaps out of it, like unfazed, and moves on. And then she locks up, leaves, and Kate's alarm goes off where she remembers she has her audition to get to, and she's obviously running very late. She runs out the door after Santa and leaves the door unlocked, which this comes back later. Anyways, she gets to the audition. She's very late. They are closing up. They're actually already discussing the cast list, and you know, they kind of think it's charming that she showed up in an elf costume. One of them says, hey, let's give her a shot. They put her on the spot. She doesn't have any accompaniment, has to sing a cappella. You can tell she just is very nervous, and it's not really a good showcase of her talent. So they tell her she's terrible and kick her back out. So she makes her way back to her friend's house, gets to the friend's house, just kind of occupies their spaces, and we learn that she kind of is a disaster wherever she goes with whatever friends that she stays with. She kills a man's fish on accident with her hairdryer by tossing it in a tank carelessly. I think that was one of her friends. And then the friend that she's currently staying with is significantly pregnant. She's got to be due any moment, probably 9 months along, and she's with her partner, and he is making a lot of just exasperations about Kate, just him not wanting her there, and the friend's like, I promise she'll be gone tomorrow. But yeah, we find out that Kate has destroyed one of his ship models that he built intricately. I think you have to use tweezers to build those things. So she destroyed it on accident, probably trying to light a match, I think. So she just totally went up in flames. And he's now building like a new kind of cool light that has all these little like cone things sticking out of it. So she takes a nap mid-sentence talking to her friend, trying to catch up, and then wakes up in time for dinner, and they're like, oh, Kate, why don't you eat something? And she's like, I'm gonna go. And she goes to the bar, brings a stranger back to their home. I mean, they allude that they hook up, and then in the morning, it's a very awkward scene where she's trying to get him out of there quietly while her friends are already awake. I mean, this seems very disrespectful. And while she's getting ready to leave for the day, she actually squashes that lamp thing that we saw him putting together. So they throw her back out, which leaves that friendship on bad terms. Anyways, so yeah, Kate goes to work the next day. We find out that the shop has been broken into, and Santa is talking to the cops and letting them know that there's no way that Kate had left anything unlocked, even though we learn that Santa had came there earlier in the day and had to make it look like a break-in and break the window so that she could get the insurance money for the robbery, and that it wasn't like a careless thing, which was actually the case. So we learned that Santa really believes in Kate, and that when she first came to work for her, she was so dedicated and really tried her best, and that now she just doesn't care. She just doesn't care about anything. And Santa gives her one last chance, which, you know, that's really sweet. I mean, her own business dreams got destroyed because of someone else's carelessness, and it's, you know, I mean, good for her. She's giving her another chance. Anyways, I'll get into that later. But yes, so she says, okay, I'm going to give you another chance. Just please don't screw up. Please prove me right. Please prove that you are the girl that I think you are. There is a really sweet date with Tom. He shows up again. After Kate gets off work, she does close the door this time and lock it. So good job, Kate. Yeah, so Tom and her go on like a very sweet date. He takes her through all these like interesting spots in London. She changes out of her little like elf costume, and he's got this philosophy of looking up. Just like look up. She notices all of these new things that she's never seen before. He takes her through the smallest alleyway in London, and there's no one in there, but it's all brightly lit with all these Christmas lights, and it's beautiful. And this just seems like a really cute kind of impromptu date thing, which she's not really interested in him in that way, but I think she's, you know, curious as a cat. So they have like a cute date. I think at one point she had talked about having like an audition for Frozen on ice, and she doesn't know how to ice skate, and he breaks them into an ice skating rink and teaches her how to skate so that she can be prepared for our audition. Yeah, I mean, I think that they just seem so cute. So she goes to that Frozen audition, and they go, can you believe it? You seem like a natural. People come here without any knowledge of how to skate. Can you believe it? And she laughs. She goes, oh my God, I can't believe that at all. Ha ha ha. Anyways, she falls on her way out, which is cute. And she goes, oh, I want to make sure you didn't think I was too perfect. And so, yeah, so she continues on along where they have a lot of these meet cutes. And finally, like one day where she can't find him, she's kind of heartbroken, kind of down, makes the decision to call a cab. And we find her in the cab talking to him, talking to the cab driver, and he is listening to her vent, and you're like, wow, Kate, really dump your problems on him. But we find out that's her dad, and he takes her home, and he drops her off at home. So he's now working as a cab driver here in England because his law degree didn't transfer over. So we meet Kate's mom. She is really overbearing in a lot of ways, kind of laying it on too much onto Kate, and we understand potentially why she doesn't come home, and that her mom refers to her having some kind of medical condition. I think they take her to the doctor the next day. Her mom has been worried sick that Kate was dying in a street somewhere. She just doesn't take care of herself, and yeah, so they don't tell us exactly what happened to Kate yet, but we know she has some kind of medical issue that makes it extra dangerous that she's not taking care of herself. I think before that, Tom meets up with her before she goes home and notices she's feeling really down on her luck and actually takes her to a homeless shelter, and she thought he was going to take her home finally. So that's a hilarious misconception, and he says, I work here, I help out with the homeless and make sure people get back on their feet okay, and he's like, you seem like you're someone that's also down on your luck, which she is. And through the course of the movie, he takes her to a park, and we see him saying, like, once you come to this park, you're part of the gang in a way. And yeah, it's just like really sweet moments like that. We continue on. The relationship with her family gets really tense. Marta, her sister, and her clash, butt heads, and Kate in front of the family says, why don't you bring Albert around everyone? And Albert is Marta's girlfriend. And so basically Kate outs her sister, and it's just another strike against Kate that she has created all of these kind of rough feelings with family members and friends, and we're seeing a pattern basically. So her sister's no longer speaking to her and was somebody that was on her side rooting for her. So then she's, not eating healthy, not really learning any of her lessons yet, and kind of she starts looking for Tom, starts showing up at the homeless shelter, trying to figure out where he is. Can't seem to find him anywhere. And when she tried to give him her phone number in the beginning, he said it was locked in a cabinet. And he just keeps telling her she needs to disconnect. And none of us think anything of that. She gets really drunk. And he appears again, takes her in, takes her to his apartment. And it's a little tiny apartment, but it's very clean, it's very organized, and this is where we get her tragic backstory, that she had a condition with her heart. There was an organ donor who gave her a new heart, and ever since that moment happened, she's never really felt like herself. They just took her heart and they threw it away. So she's been battling with this kind of survivor's guilt, or I don't know if that's the exact term, but she's been battling through these guilty feelings of like not really knowing who she is now and feeling like a part of her is missing, and that she has some, mysterious new part inside of her. So they have just they're very cute. They sing each other to sleep. More so, she sings herself and then he joins in to sleep, and she wakes up, he's not there, kind of goes about her day. We see her starting to make some really healthy changes in her life, and she starts showing up at the homeless shelter more often. She's trying more at work. She begins to sing out in front of the homeless shelter and collect money. That whatever money she gets from singing out in front, she gives it back to the shelter, and they start to see more and more tips come in, and some of the residents of the shelter come and sing with her, and it's very sweet, it's very cute. They all get in on it. She starts to make friends, and then eventually she's starting to host a talent show, like a Christmas talent show spectacular. They sing a bunch of Christmas carols all together, so they're holding auditions with all of the homeless residents, and it's very sweet, getting everybody actively engaged in this to get more donations, to give back. You see her really start to blossom, and she's starting to make more of an effort with her parents. She starts to right all of the wrongs with the people, like the friends that she might have done something to hurt their feelings that she never made up for in the past. So the friend who she killed their zebra turkey fish, which I hope that's what they're called. I just know that from Animal Crossing. It seems like it's an expensive exotic fish. She brings him a goldfish, and he goes, okay, she's at least making an effort and trying and doing the best that she can. She brings a huge baby shower present for her friend who was pregnant in the beginning that we saw, and surprises her and brings her a ship in a bottle for the friend's partner, gives that to them as a gift and says that, you know, this one won't burn up as easily. So you see her really making amends and getting more involved in the culture of Yugoslavia. We saw in multiple points in the film when her mother calls her Katarina, she goes, it's Kate. She's pushing against that culture, and then now she's starting to kind of fit into it more, and her take her mother out to this big fair that seems like it's full of like Yugoslavian tradition. There's a wine there, and she drops it off at her sister's house. We meet Albert. God, I wish I could pronounce that better. God dang. I wish I could pronounce that better. Albert, we meet her and opens the door for Kate, and Kate's like, you know, I'm so sorry. I really shouldn't have said what I said. I shouldn't have outed her. I wish that you and I got an opportunity to meet, and I just really want my sister to know that I want to make amends. You know, her sister Marta forgives her, but lets her know firmly, like, it was not okay what she did. So I appreciate that dynamic. And yeah, so we just see her really make all of these huge healthy changes. And where is Tom? Tom is not around. She busts in on the apartment that he was at. There's another man there, and turns around and she thought it was Tom. And they kind of this miscommunication of, you know, what's going on. And we find out that he's actually a realtor, and he is trying to sell this apartment. He's kind of taking her on a tour, and it's very small, and then he's showing the features, and she's not quite understanding, and then he opens the cabinet and hands her the phone that was in there, and she goes, oh, there it is, like, there's Tom's phone, and you know, maybe thinks he's a squatter, and the guy's like, why? And then we find out that it was Tom Webster's apartment. It was Tom's apartment, and that God, I hope I don't cry through this. But we find out that he got into a car accident the Christmas before, tragically died. He was riding his bicycle and was hit by a car. He died at 30. His heart was used as a transplant, and she goes through a whole flashback and a whole series where she understands that he was her organ donor and that she now has his heart. It kind of sends her on a spiral, and she starts to recognize that all of the ways that he had been there in the past, he wasn't actually there, and they show the scenes now without him in them. Oh my God, sorry, this is so silly. I'm such a softie. So we see the footage of him not being there, that he was imagined, and I guess by creating this relationship to the organ donor without realizing it, she was able to heal this part of her that she felt had been missing. They meet again. He kind of explains why he couldn't tell her, and oh my God, this is so funny. Basically explains to her, take good care of my heart now. Oh my God, this is so funny. Yeah, take good care of my heart now. She takes way better care of herself. We see her looking way healthier. She puts on her show. She gives a really sweet speech before singing Last Christmas. Gives a sweet speech about how lucky everyone is to be alive right now. And yeah, I mean, I think that's a really nice message for all of us to hear. God dang, I can't believe I'm like crying so hard. Trying to retell this. Am I getting makeup everywhere? The last couple scenes, she is sitting on a bench, writing in a journal, and, you know, and she's looking up, and we see on the park bench that it was in honor of him, and the decree is to look up. And then we see her at Christmas with everyone, with her mother, her father, Marta, and Marta's girlfriend, Albert. and everybody seems really happy and everyone's getting along, and it's just a really sweet ending, and they all sing a big Yugoslavian traditional like celebration song, and we see everybody laughing and dancing and having a good time, and that's where it leaves us. Anyways, okay, cool. So, God, I'm gonna clean myself up, and then let's get into the relationship dynamics between the characters. Okay, so I want to start with the relationship dynamic between Kate and her friends. So I want to do some of these platonic relationships to start out with. We see Kate and her close friend. Her friend says that Kate is her oldest friend. This is the friend that's pregnant. The relationship seems strained. So I think for a lot of these, we're gonna find Kate being a major factor in these relationships where they go wrong. So in this relationship, her friend shows a real interest in her life. Kate starts to show an interest in her life, but then falls asleep while her friend is answering her. And so, of course, that friend's partner is going to be like, why is this person your friend? Like, they just seem to be using you. But yeah, I mean, I think that she's just in a very selfish phase in her life. Kate is obviously grieving and obviously kind of having a rough go of things. I mean, that doesn't excuse the behavior, but also I think we need to have some compassion for what she is going through. Her friend seems to be a really good friend who's willing to take her off the street and give her a place to stay. Of course she's gonna be upset at Kate for bringing a random stranger into her home, and she's like 9 months pregnant, and it could potentially be putting her and her family in harm's way. So that is some pretty reckless behavior from Kate, where she's just not really concerned with other people's feelings at this point. So I would say in the beginning, this relationship is extremely toxic to the friend. The friend is not the toxic person in this equation. The friend seems to be setting really healthy boundaries for the most part. I think in the beginning, the friend gets walked over a little bit until she gets pushed too far and then has to set boundaries moving forward. Hopefully, as they move forward, they are in a better place where there is respect moving forward. Okay, so then the next relationship dynamic I want to go over, this relationship between Santa and Kate. So Santa is kind of a friend to her, but Santa is also her boss. So this is an interesting dynamic. So I guess I'm going to kind of try to look at it through what work boundaries should look like. So I would say they have probably crossed some lines that Santa accepts how Kate speaks to her sometimes. They ask very serious personal questions about the love interest in their life. They ask each other like if they've had sex with the person that they have, you know, the object of their adoration, which to me, if that were my boss, I would feel like that is crossing a boundary. If I were someone's boss, I would feel like I am crossing a boundary or they are crossing a boundary. I don't know. We don't see them hang out of work. We don't see them hang outside of work. So I think they just strictly have a work relationship. But I mean, again, if it works for them, then this is something that this is a dynamic they've created. It has fostered the ability for them to have real talks and for Santa to kind of come at her as like a mentor figure and tell her like, yeah, you're really screwing up and I believe in you and I want you to turn around and I want to give you another chance. So, I mean, with toxicity, I don't know. It's got to be at least a 6 to me, sadly. And if you don't agree with that, sound off in the comments because, I mean, I think that this really crosses some major work boundaries. I think that there's a lot of deprecating humor between the both of them where they take some pretty low shots. To me, that doesn't feel like that fosters healthy connection. I'm not a huge fan of beating people who are already down. So if someone was struggling, yeah, maybe don't take the pot shots at their confidence or, you know, stuff like that, or basically call them names. Yeah, so I have to put it at least a 6. I mean, I know that this is probably where they've placed this relationship, but toxicity wise, I just don't see it as being a healthy work relationship. Okay, so then I want to get into the relationship between Kate and Marta. So Kate and Marta, they have a strained relationship. I think at the beginning we see them having a little bit more closeness as children, but I think Marta seems like she's a little fed up being the child that has to... Okay, so in psychology, they have these dynamics in households that are called if you're the scapegoat or if you're the golden child. And each one has kind of a different negative connotation and a different positive connotation to being those, which it doesn't seem like it at first, but yes. So Marta seems like she is actually the scapegoat who wants to be the golden child, and Kate is the golden child who has now become the scapegoat. So they somehow reverse themselves. I think this is probably pretty common in my own experience. This is something that can happen where you reverse. And I think that it's created a lot of pressure and tension between the two of them to have these slight comparisons. So Marta is a lawyer. She became a lawyer because her dad couldn't practice law in England and had to kind of fend for the family. And so Marta took on those reins. And I think that's to seek the parents' approval. And Kate was then the singer. She was the creative one. She was the one that, you know, makes her mother cry when she sings. And they had all of these hopes for her. So I think there's a lot of tension for those reasons. And of course, I mean, Marta is also a lesbian. And so Kate knows that secret. Her parents don't know this about her because they come from an older tradition where they potentially aren't as open to those types of relationships, which thankfully at the end we see her parents being very accepting of the relationship between Marta and Albert, which is great. Yay parents for changing and loving your kids no matter what, because that's really not a thing to be upset about, honestly, of all the things to be upset about. And yeah, and then of course, I mean, Kate gets sick, and so everybody's babying her, and I think it falls on Marta to come to her rescue oftentimes. So yeah, I think that where their relationship starts out, and especially that Kate outs the relationship between Albert and Marta, puts a huge strain on the relationship between Kate and Marta. Yeah, so I think initially it comes from a high toxic place where there's potentially a competition element, which is not how we should view our siblings. We shouldn't view our siblings as competition for our parents' love. Initially, I would rank this as a very high toxic level. I would have probably put it at least a 7. But now I think where they end up, where everything's out in the open, there were apologies. I think Kate really put her heart out there. No pun intended. God, that's terrible. Kate really puts herself out there on the line to apologize to Marta and tell her that, you know, she was absolutely wrong. There was no reason for her to out Marta to the family, and that it's unforgivable. And I really appreciated the way that Marta, where she didn't excuse the behavior and just say, oh, it's okay, it's fine. Because I think oftentimes we do that kind of stuff when somebody does something to us. There's a lot of, oh, it's okay, it's fine. Like, not to be a bother. And she says, it's not okay, but I will forgive you. And I want us to find a way forward. and to repair that connection. So I think that was a really kind of nice boundary work, letting someone know that even though they hurt you and it's not okay what they did, and you're not excusing the behavior, but you are able to move forward and to move past it. So yeah, so I think by the end on the toxic scale, their relationship ends up at, I'm probably gonna put them at like a 2. I don't think anyone's gonna be at a 1 if I'm being honest, because I think there are differing levels of toxicity. But I think where they end up, where they can joke and kind of be merry and come to a new place of understanding, I think that they end up at around a 2. Cool. Okay. So then I think we should go into Kate's relationship with her mother. So this seems to be a point of contention. Kate probably feels smothered, which I totally understand why she would feel smothered in any kind of capacity. Her mother babies her and is kind of gets into all of Kate's things. She's like unloading her suitcase and is like, oh, this is naughty, looking at her clothes and kind of putting her under a magnifying glass. I think she's just like a really overbearing mother who comes off kind of like a helicopter parent, where she just hovers over her, and she may mean well. She may have a lot of care for her daughter and love, and I think it gets blown out of proportion, where it quickly becomes about her, and I think she has this victim mentality as well, and it's probably something that Kate has learned from her is to be the victim, which to me feels like narcissistic behavior. Sorry. It feels like narcissistic behavior. And we see those lines in Kate where she has a lot of narcissistic behavior that comes through, where she's very selfish and they're not thinking of how their actions affect other people. And so they may care and they may take it to these extremes, but yeah, it pushes people away. So I think where I don't really see them resolve these issues or talk about these issues. So I can't say that they both had a transformation towards each other. We do see Kate have major transformation throughout the movie. We see her take more care when it comes to her mom. So I think that we can say that on Kate's end, it heals a lot more. And I think that kind of takes some of the toxicity out. But I do think her mother probably could work on making some changes to her approach. Let's just put it at that. But moms mean well. So I think toxicity scale, I think they probably start out pretty high in my book, and they end up at probably, I don't know, probably like a 6. I think that they are able to work together or be around each other or, do things together and then kind of come to a place of understanding. But yeah, I don't think that they resolve the tension necessarily through any kind of conversation like Marta and Kate have. So yeah, I'm going to keep them at a 6. Awesome. Okay. I guess we'll go through Kate and her father. Kate and her father seem to be pretty close. He seems to be gone a lot, doesn't really want to be home because, again, Kate's mother seems to be very overbearing. I'll go into the parents' relationship too, I think, after this. But yeah, so Kate seems to be very close. She's very physically affectionate to her father, and I don't mean that in a gross way. I mean that like she hugs him, we see her kiss him. Her mother, on the other hand, was very affectionate towards her, but she seemed to recoil at it. I think that the relationship with the father seems to be pretty healthy. He seems to have her back, and he's not hovering over her and not really telling her what to do because she is an adult. And, he's there to pick her up when she's down and when she needs him, but he's not going to be like, oh, I told you never to do this again. He seems to be like a very lighthearted man and just, very kind. So I think on the toxicity scale, I think that they're pretty low. They're probably also a 2. We don't see any kind of major issues happen between them. She doesn't seem to have any grudges with her father, and she seems to be able to freely tell him what she thinks and how she feels. So yeah, I'm gonna probably place them pretty low, probably at a 2 or 3. I'll say 2. Let's just go with 2. So now let's dissect the relationship between Kate and Marta's parents. So we see that they are Yugoslavian refugees, that they've made it over to London. They've been living their lives there. There is a lot of fear there's a lot of racial tension. There's a lot of tension between people who are from London telling people from Yugoslavia, go back to where you came from, speak English. I think this is something that we see in a lot of places over different things. We see it here in America. If you're watching this from America, that's where I live. But yeah, we see a lot of weird racial tensions like that, where it's making people an other and making them an enemy. And so Kate and Marta's mother seems to be very nervous of those tensions, and she watches a lot of the news, and she doesn't sleep much, and their father goes out all the time. He works a taxi cab. It seems to be the perfect escape to get away from home and not have to deal with their mother's kind of emotions and her fears and being nervous about what's happening with their daughters. And so I think that their relationship is very strained. There doesn't seem to be communication between the two of them. I think at the end, we see a very lighthearted moment where they're joking and singing. He's making a joke of her singing like a really sad song from their country. I think her mother used to sing it. But yeah, so we see them having this lighthearted moment, but I think that the relationship is very strained. So I think if I'm gonna rate it, I'm gonna put their toxicity scale, they're probably close to an 8. I think that their kids are what keeps them together, or by duty and obligation. I hope that there is love there. There seems to be a tenderness that's deeply in there. I don't think that either of them wants to leave, but I think that they need to work on their communication skills. They don't fight outright, so that's why I'm not placing them higher. But I think that there is a lot of deep-seated underlying issues that need to be worked out. They just have no communication. So to me, that's highly toxic. Okay, so let's move on to Tom and Kate's relationship. So, of course, Tom is a figment of her imagination. I think in a way we could make a case that this is the relationship with Kate and herself, that Kate has this, initially she doesn't like herself. She doesn't like this other part of her in her. She makes a lot of monologues where she says, I was supposed to be special. And that's a lot of pressure on someone. So I think that their relationship is actually very sweet. And I am always a fan of growth. And I think his character, I mean, he's not real. So he's absolutely perfect in most ways. We don't really see a downside to him. He makes a case for her to take better care of herself, that she has options that are healthier than just, picking up a dude on the street, that he's not, when we think that he's real, he's not trying to sleep with her. He's not trying to take advantage of her in her moments of weakness. He just seems like an all-around good influence on her, as we see where she just starts to make better decisions for herself, and where she starts to really blossom and love herself and take care of herself and eat better. And she's drinking a green juice at one point. these green juices. But so we see her really transform the relationships in her life and take more care with them. She starts out being the toxic one, of course, because she seeks him out when she needs him, and it's not really, I guess it's not really a two-way street in the beginning. And I think by the end, we find her being at a place of resolution where she recognizes what the relationship is. And I think she comes at it from a place of gratitude. God, sorry, I'm just like coming at this with the waterworks. But yeah, I think there is this deep sense of gratitude and wanting to take care of herself. If you can't do it for yourself, it sometimes is a huge factor to push that you could do it for other people. So take care of yourself because other people want you to be around and they want you to take care of yourself. I think that can be, I don't want that to be the only reason that somebody changes is for somebody else, but it can be a highly enticing way to begin change. And I mean, a lot of people initiate change for other people. I know myself, I am highly motivated for other people rather than for myself. I think that this relationship is powerful. I mean, it's transformative. Toxicity scale, I think by the end, I think, yeah, I said I wasn't going to give a 1. This is probably close to a 1 by the end. I think she's able to stand on her own 2 feet and she's not seeking out somebody or something to make her feel better anymore. She just makes those decisions to make herself better. Once that shift happens, when it's not so much about this other person, like being better for them, it's being better for myself. It's probably 1 or 2. Let's just go with 1. I said I wasn't going to do it, and in the same breath, I'm giving it a 1. So yeah, okay, awesome. I think that's all of the relationship dynamics in this movie. So thank you so much for watching. Again, my name is Sammy and I am a dating coach for singles. I hope that these videos help you take a critical look at your own life and your own relationships. I hope that you make good choices and that you are always growing and changing and transforming. Look up, as Tom Webster would say. Merry Christmas and happy holidays, no matter what you celebrate. I hope that this time of year is really special for you and that you are taking note of everything that you are grateful for. And I am very grateful for you for watching this video. So if you happen to enjoy this, to show some gratitude towards me, if you could hit the like button, the little thumbs up, if you could leave a comment letting me know what videos you would like to see in the future. I'm happy to watch any rom-coms that you happen to love and dissect them. And then, yeah, if you could share it with a loved one, that would be really super helpful. And go ahead and hit that subscribe button and the little bell so that you can be notified of any time I make videos in the future. Awesome. Okay, be safe out there. Take care of yourselves. Take care of your loved ones. Bye.